Alright, Know Your Developers Episode 3. What are we on now? We did Group 1, that was Mario Kart. Group 2 we did last week, and that was Animal Crossing, so we are up to EAD Group 3. What did Group 3 do? The Legend of Zelda series, the single greatest adventure game series of all time, and that's not even just my opinion, that's like a quantifiable fact. No, seriously, look. Here it is. I've quantified it. Consider yourself quantified, fact. I heard some of you comment in the last episode that I don't pronounce all the Japanese names correctly, and I appreciate you telling me how to pronounce them. I'm gonna pronounce these wrong too. I'm just warning you now that it's not getting better. I'm sorry. We all know the story. Miyamoto created his groundbreaking open-world adventure game, The Legend of Zelda, for the NES, based on his experiences exploring caves near his home as a child. But nowadays, The Legend of Zelda is overseen by another brilliant designer. When he started at Nintendo in the early 90s, no one would have expected Eiji Aonuma to become one of the most powerful names in gaming. His first work was on the 1991 NES game Open Tournament Golf, and later the Famicom exclusive fighting game Joy Mech Fight. Japan, everyone. Joy Mech Fight. Aonuma got his crack at directing in 1996 on the Super Nintendo game Marvelous, Another Treasure Island. It was a game in much the same vein as The Legend of Zelda. In it, you take control of 3 children exploring an island and collecting stamps. The game never made it out of Japan, but Neil says it was pretty good, so there you go. Neil approved. Then the moment came. That glorious moment when Aonuma found himself on the development team of The Legend of Zelda. So what was the now king of Zelda's first contribution to the Zelda universe? I'll give you a hint. It's an Ocarina of Time. Not Z-targeting. Not horses either. No. Eiji Aonuma started his Zelda career by designing the Water Temple. Yup. That's on him. Kinda changes the way you look at the guy, huh? To his credit, he did make the 3DS version a little less confusing, though it's still no walk in the park. After Ocarina of Time released in 1998, he began work as a director on the project that would become Majora's Mask. For his co-director, he teamed up with Yoshiaki Koizumi, the future director of Super Mario Galaxy. With Aonuma at the helm, Majora's Mask would go on to be one of the most controversial games in the Zelda franchise. It was clear that Aonuma wasn't afraid to break tradition. Perhaps that's what caught Miyamoto's eye. His next game would demonstrate this once again, as he made the decision to flood Hyrule, creating a very different world to explore. When Aonuma expressed an interest in leaving the Zelda team to work on other projects, Miyamoto stepped in and urged Aonuma to stick with the series. Aonuma gave in and directed Twilight Princess, a very dark, gritty take on the world of Hyrule. Following the game's release, Aonuma found himself promoted to general producer of all things Zelda. Clearly, this is what Miyamoto had in mind when he urged Aonuma to stick with Zelda. Aonuma holds this position to this day, and has overseen every Zelda game for the past decade. And now a man whose name I definitely will not pronounce correctly, something you will inform me of regularly in the comments. Right down there. There's probably a comment down there right now. Hidemaru Fujibayashi started work on The Legend of Zelda long before he joined Nintendo. As EAD 3 worked hard to convert Zelda into a 3D adventure on the Nintendo 64, Capcom was assigned the role of creating a more traditional sort of Zelda on the Game Boy Color. Fujibayashi and his team pitched several game concepts to Miyamoto, including a remake of the original Legend of Zelda. But in the end, they decided on a game that would make use of the assets designed for the 1993 title, Link's Awakening. The resulting 2 games, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, were a huge success, selling a combined 8 million units. Fujibayashi continued working on Zelda from his office at Capcom, directing 2 GBA titles, 4 Swords, and the amazing Minish Cap, my personal favorite 2D Zelda game of all time. Finally, he found a place at Nintendo, working as a sub-director and scriptwriter on Phantom Hourglass, before directing Skyward Sword for the Wii. He hasn't been credited with anything since the release of Skyward Sword, and so it's pretty likely that he's directing Zelda for Wii U, though nothing's been officially confirmed. Daiki Iwamoto got his start at Nintendo working on a series of graphically groundbreaking 3D games, including the cancelled Star Fox 2, Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Luigi's Mansion. He would step out of his programming comfort zone in 2004 when he led the design of boss battles on Four Swords Adventures for the GameCube. His work obviously didn't go unrecognized by the Zelda team, as he was promptly promoted to director on both Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks for the Nintendo DS. He assisted Fujibayashi with Skyward Sword before moving on to help out with the launch of the Wii U. It's likely that at this time, Iwamoto was also working on Wind Waker HD. Since the release of Wind Waker HD, Iwamoto's been pretty quiet. It's likely that he's working on the new Zelda for Wii U, and given his experience releasing a Zelda game on Wii U, he's probably in a pretty high position, maybe as assistant director. Makoto Miyanaga joined Nintendo in the mid-90s as a graphic artist on projects such as Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, and Ocarina of Time. He moved up to assistant director during the GameCube era on Super Mario Sunshine. He'd go on to work on both Super Mario 64 DS and Pikmin 2 before assuming the role of assistant director under Aonuma himself on The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. His only Zelda game as director so far is Link's crossbow training. Hey, it ain't Ocarina of Time, but gotta start somewhere. In recent years, he worked on Wii Fit Plus and Pikmin 3. While he may be working on Zelda for Wii U, his exact role is hard to determine. Though perhaps he'll be an assistant director on an unannounced Zelda game for the 3DS, which would likely be directed by Hiromasa Shikata. Who's that, you ask? Well, you can head over to NintendoWorldReport.com to learn about him and also get even more details on the directors I already mentioned. Thank you very much for watching this episode. If you missed the first 2 episodes of Know Your Developers, you can check out a playlist of them right here. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Nintendo World Report TV with this convenient large red button. As usual, this episode was co-written by Neil Ronahan, who you can watch nearly every week over on Nintendo News Report. I'll put a link to that right there. And if you're bored, you can always come hang out with me for a bit over on my channel right there. And hey, maybe hit the subscribe button. Who knows? We just see what happens. Thank you very much for watching. My name's John Reardon, and I hope you will join me next week for EAD Group 4. We're making progress. I mean, there's 5 EAD groups that we gotta get through, so we just passed the halfway mark, so good job, team. Proud of you. Proud of you all. While nothing's been confirmed, it's pretty likely that Fujibayashi